Hi, hi, hi. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. It is your friend, your girl, Dr. Christy Perez, here to do the Ask Dr. Christy show for AIDS United, powered by the Melanated Movement portfolio. And I have my new friend, the very special, the very brilliant, and the very beautiful Justine Davenport. Hi, Justine. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm just so excited
I'm so
for this
excited too.
discussion. Yes.
It is a real privilege and a great opportunity to have you here. I feel like we're going to get some great insights from you. And, you are not new to this work at all. So, what I would love to do before we pivot to kind of like some of our news stuff is I would love to tell us about Justine. Tell us about you.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm Justine Davenport, born and raised Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York. I reside in Atlanta, Georgia, where I've done most of my advocacy work. I actually been doing this going on to 5 years later this year, but born positive. Um, but outside of that, I'm a mom. I have a son who is negative. I am in a relationship with somebody who is not HIV positive. I work in HIV care. I advocate for women, children, moms, adolescents. Um, I love art. Anything art, dance, that just brings me peace. But yes, I am so many things. I'm a cab member on the Well Project. I blog for a girl like me. Please go check them out. I just do so many things. So yeah, it's so many I can't even think.
No, I love that. And that is to me a staple, a kind of thread that I find pretty consistent through not only this type of movement work, but all movement work in general, is the people who are really doing it, who are really committed, that have the passion, have the experience, and who are helping to move the needle. They tend to have a lot of hats, a lot of commitments. And, it's funny that in a space where we focus so much on protecting the expression, the autonomy, the access, the opportunities of other people. And so ultimately, what we're doing is people centered care.
Yes,
We are often not very good as these kind of architects, these social change engineers at caring for ourselves. We care for everybody else. We do all the
exactly.
things, all the places for all the people all the time. And then when we reach that point, it's like, oh man, I got to rest for like a month.
Yes, I need a vacation right now as we speak.
I, hey, I feel that, but I'm not going to complain because I'm getting ready to get one shortly. So yeah, I definitely get that. But Justine, so the next part of the show, we jump in and we give a few news updates. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's sometimes it's boohoo. But what I love to do is get like a little analysis going. And so I would also love to chime in with your thoughts and your feedback. I know you may not have gotten a chance to go over every single one of these, but anything that comes to mind, you are definitely an expert in your field. So I know that any insights we get from you are going to be exceptional.
I love
um,
it.
so, y'all, now that y'all have met my co host for the day, the wonderful Justine Davenport, we're going to go ahead and jump into our updates. Also, I have a comment here on Instagram. ATRK254 said, hello, Dr. Christy. Thanks for the great work you're doing in the fight to end HIV and AIDS. Well,
Mhm.
thank you, ATRK254. That's a heck of a name. Thank you so much for that acknowledgement. And thank you. That thanks also goes to people like Justine Davenport, who told a little bit of their story a moment ago and the different roles they play. And it goes to a lot more people than
Mhm.
just some of the visible faces. We get the chance to apply kind of our charisma and our following. And so
Mhm.
that gives us some recognition. But do not be fooled. The people who you often don't get to see very often are the ones doing the brunt of the lifting. And so I also want to pass some of that wonderful, very generous thanks from you onto Justine, to the whole entire staff at the Melanated Movement. Shout out to
Mhm.
Carly, who is the program manager, and to the comm side, Sophia, who is making this possible, and at large, the whole entire AIDS United movement. So we do appreciate that very much. I am going to get your questions. I see questions coming in. I'm going to let them sit, but we're going to jump right into our news, breaking news updates for you. Okay. So our first piece of news that we're sharing for this month is AHF reaches 3 million lives in care globally. This is a huge headline. And, we know that this has been an issue since the very beginning of the issues back in during the beginning of the epidemic, in terms of how do we get enough people in care. And so some of the key facts around this story is that the AIDS Healthcare Foundation announces now reached 3 million people receiving HIV care worldwide, and that AHF operates across dozens of countries, and that the milestone reflects massive expansion both in HIV testing, treatment access, prevention, retention and care, and contributions to the conversations and efforts at pursuing a cure. And we know that is happening through multiple avenues currently. This comes during a growing global instability around healthcare funding for HIV and AIDS, as well as other LGBTQ issues. And I want to make that really clear, because a lot of people don't realize that there is a conflation of those two things. So they will try to mix all LGBTQ issues with HIV and AIDS funding and research, as if only this demographic of people this is their issue, not anybody else's issue. But we know on our side, and the community activists and the scholarship side, that it is actually growing populations of immigrants and Black women and undocumented immigrants, migrants, that are facing the greatest risk. So that's some of the issues there. Ultimately, what we're excited about from this headline is it shows us that HIV treatment infrastructure works when communities actually invested into instead of criminalized or abandoned. And Justine, I would love to know, what does this headline make you feel? What does it make you think? What's your gut reaction?
I would agree. A lot of times they like to put everybody in the same box, and we are not the same. We have different needs. We have um, different ways we want to be approached. You just can't make everything a one person care. You have to go into the communities to find out the kind of care that they need and that they require. You that goes to speaking with the people. You can't just assume as a provider or organization what somebody needs. There are many people that talk to the provider, and their provider does not listen to their needs. And then they end up not coming to their appointments. So it's very important that we take the time to listen to what the people need, the patients need, to get the best care so those numbers can continue to grow. But until we partner, I like to say collaborate, right? Our organizations, our providers need to collaborate with patients, not just tell them what to do. Okay? Because
Yeah.
again, everybody's not the same. But we have to come together and make it a collaboration with each other. That way they can get what they need and these numbers won't continue to grow.
And I completely agree. What I think is so interesting is that we are really living in a time where, politicians are framing public health as too expensive, yet HIV keeps proving to be life-saving and cost-effective, which is going to bring us into one of our stories later. But what I think is really interesting is we don't have money for healthcare. We don't have money for science, but we have money for war and for tax breaks for the rich. And, it's never about a lack of money. It's a lack of desire and interest by the ruling class. So 3 million people alive and in care is not an accident. And this is what happens when communities fight for survival and refuse to let vulnerable people be discarded. So I'm excited about that.
I am too. I love to hear things like that.
Which brings us to our next story. AIDS Walk New York 2026. So I'm very excited. There will be an AIDS Walk here in Georgia this year as well. There always is in Atlanta, and myself and the team at Georgia Equality, all of my wonderful colleagues and friends will be doing it. So, but the core story here is that thousands gathered in Central Park for AIDS Walk New York. The fundraiser supports GMHC and HIV-related services. The walk continues decades after the height of the AIDS crisis, and it's one of the first walks for, prevention and for a cure and for destigmatization, all these things. So the continued existence of AIDS walks reminds us that HIV has never disappeared. Public attention and funding may have disappeared. A lack of conversations may have been occurring. But in certain corners, the commitment has remained because the concern, the issue has remained. So I want to get your thoughts on this, as the AIDS crisis was never truly end it in the eyes of like certain political segments. They only ever use it in that sense. They don't talk about the fact that even what it means to be, for example, a dandelion, a person being born and living, is very different. And the breakthroughs of how like now we don't have to worry about mothers. A mother is able to have peace and confidence that her child will not also have a positive status and all types of things. So I guess I want to get your thoughts on what displays like this mean.
Like you said, HIV has never gone away, HIV or AIDS, but there's so many advances that have happened to help people live long and healthy lives. There's so much improvement from science, from pills. I mean, when I was a child, I had to take so many 12 pills a day to 3 pills a day to 1 pill a day to now being on the injection. So it's come so far, but because we don't talk about it, there's a lot of people in the community who are just not educated or aware of it, so they think it no longer exists. But working in HIV care, I see the numbers of people coming in and the newly diagnosed people coming in and funding being cut like HIV doesn't exist. And these people are needing the services. There are people who don't even know the services are available to them because they don't have access. They don't have transportation. They're worried about their homelessness. Like, I'm not going to come into care and for what? I need to find out where I'm going to live at. So we we do a great job at sharing, but not great enough for me. There's so many spaces where we need to hit in the communities. We have to go directly to the people. You can't just expect them to come to us because maybe we are the clinic and the clinic nobody wants to come to, or we the don't go there, or they're gonna take care of you, but not everybody knows that information, right? That's not something you want to share. That's not questions you want to ask people, right? So if you happen to come across it, that's beautiful. But a lot of people are not in spaces where they come across, hey, you can get care here. You can live a long, healthy life. You just got to make sure you're consistent on your medication and come to doctor's appointments. But a lot of people don't even just come to the doctor. They don't want to get tested. They're afraid. But you have to be able to know your body and do preventative measures. But it's such taboo in the Black community of going to the doctor and distrusting the health system. It's in silos, but we have to come together as a community again, collaborate, and we have to go to them as providers. That's our job. It's not their job to come to us. We have to go to them in their actual community and stop talking about HIV like it's stigma. Okay, it's you have HIV, people have diabetes. We should
Yeah.
be able to talk to it at the same sense, but people are too afraid. But this is why I speak, because why are we talking about it like it no longer exists? Because it very much does. I see it every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that with what we've seen recently, that particularly here in Georgia, now being acknowledged officially as the third highest after Miami and stuff. So, that's the reality, is we have to have these conversations very frank. It's kind of like back in the day, the old school folks would say, if you can't talk about sex, you're not ready to have it. If we can't talk about sexual health and wellness, you ain't ready to have
No need.
it. No need. Keep it in your pants.
Yes, and we know that's hard to do.
So we're going to go ahead and transition to our third of a total of 4 stories, and it's something I'm very excited about. There has been a lot of talk about the cost of the state. We see politicians, particularly those that are more conservative. I'm just going to make a generalization here. We see a lot of the rhetoric tends to be like, oh no, we want to save money. But the reality is that saving lives often is the more cost-effective way to save money. And Georgia has helped establish that when it comes to HIV funding. And so Georgia HIV treatment saved over $100 billion for the state. The key takeaways from this story is that a Georgia study found that HIV treatment saved the state over $100 billion. $100 billion with a big old B. The way you're talking about billion.
Right. Surpass.
Don't remember their numbers out there, okay? It takes a lot of millions to make 1 billion.
Yes.
We got 100 billion. We got bunches of thousands of millions. We got too many, okay?
Too many.
Too many.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
So the treatment increased workforce participation and reduced emergency healthcare needs, which has been a prior in the past, people having complications to undertreated or not treated at all diagnoses actually created a greater strain on the healthcare system.
Hmm.
And researchers found approximately $3.40 returned for every public dollar invested. That's about three times, almost three times and a half of the initial investment into public health. It kind of goes back to what activists and community people have been saying forever. People focused, not profit focused. If you focus on the people, you will always see the work back. Okay.
Hmm.
And what I find so funny is that HIV care is not just morally necessary. You can't say that you are pro-life in one regard and then decide that you want to. So whose life gets to matter and why do you get to make the valuation, the determination? So there's a moralized component to this as well. And it's economically smart public policy. So there's a lot of benefits that are coming to it. And I kind of guess I want to focus on why kind of in our analysis here, the conservatives often frame these kind of what they call social programs as a drain on society. But the data repeatedly disproves this position. How does this new breaking headline make you feel in contrast to like these conservative talking points for why we should not spend our money on public health?
It's disgusting. Um, because public health helps so many people, right? It Because if you don't have any insurance, you have to go to your county provider, right? But if you're not providing the services, there's a lives lost, right? You should not. First of all, nobody should dictate anything about
Mhm.
anybody's life or anything
Mhm.
like that. That should not be a man's decision, a person's decision, human decision. That you are trying to restrict health care from somebody of taking care of themselves. Like that shouldn't be. That's inhumane, right? But it really just disheartens. The first of all, the amount of numbers and so many people backing it, but then not being able to. It's just insensitive. It really kind of crawls my skin. Hearing
Understandable.
that, yeah, it because I deal with people every day and I hear the stories and the lack of access and things they're not able to obtain and
Mhm.
just different things in the world right now further restricting them from access to care or just regular daily life basic needs and not being able to access that. Like we have the privilege of being able to access everything things, but not everybody does. And they just continue to fall into this cycle. And when you're trying to give somebody hope, they're not trying to hear it. But then when you got people over us in laws and administration who just is trying to dismantle healthcare, it's a real struggle. It's like you need to come to the front line and see what we deal with, and maybe your decision will change, or maybe not, because you don't care about people. But they also shouldn't be in office either. So
Yeah, I think that you said something really key there because you said something about the front line, right? And so I've actually something that I've been spending a lot more time with lately. I've been making content about it. Well, I made one video, so I can't say I've been making content about it, but I made one video about it. But I have been thinking about it a lot because I was recently at a conference with the director of transgender equality for Equality Florida, okay,
mhm.
Angelique Goodwin, and she said this thing that really got my brains like spinning and like really dissecting privilege and analyzing it in a way that I never had previously. Like, I think I've been in this work for 15 years. I've done quite a bit of work around privilege, right? So, what occurred to me though is that privilege isn't just having enough of something or having more than something. It is actually about having the capacity or the privilegedness to avoid the reality of other people's circumstances. That is the real privilege, is being removed from the
Mhm.
reality of other people's less fortunate or oppressed circumstances. So when you say come to the front line,
Yeah.
the reason why they're able to be so disconnected from the realities of this is because their privilege allows them to be completely removed from the reality of this being an existing issue to really contend with.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that is the correct prescription. I think that if you cannot be confronted with the realities, then you don't need to be legislating anything.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So we'll pivot now to our last piece of news updates. We get our last little bit of the ViiV style commentary on. But so Emory University joins the National HIV Pharmacy Coalition. This is something that I'm very, very happy about. I have friends who work at Emory, and I'm very happy about Georgia, non-bipartisan effort to pass a piece of legislation that was allowing pharmacists to provide preventative care for HIV treatment, right? And so this is a big deal. This is going to bring down a lot of the new diagnoses cases. It's going to make a lot more accessibility. It's going to decrease stigmatization. It's going to decrease a lot of people's anxiety and nervousness and a skepticism of if I go to the clinic, if I go to the doctor, all of that stuff. So
Right.
Emory University has joined a national coalition expanding HIV services through pharmacies. The effort focuses on community-based HIV prevention and treatment access. Pharmacies may become more important access points for testing, for PrEP, and for treatment. Heavy on the PrEP. I think that PrEP is super important. I tell everybody about it. I'm a woman who is almost fully divorced, separated 18 months. I'm in my dating era. I'm getting my groove back like Stella, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm so surprised by how many men don't. I'm like, you don't have television, you don't have YouTube, you don't have Instagram, y'all don't you don't see bus stops. How do you not know what PrEP is? You need to get some. So there's a lot of great things, and healthcare must go where people actually are, especially in the South, which a lot of people forget that the center of our communities used to be the pharmacies. So it's very much kind of a returning to that as well. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the fact that this is going to make healthcare not only more accessible to people with money, transportation stability, and other social accessibility issues. This is going to decrease a lot of stigmatization. And the good thing about it is, based off of what Emory's doing, there is going to be more promotional material at pharmacies and at pharmaceutical locations. So this means we're going to also get more passive education around this issue. So I'm really excited. But I love a little subliminal messaging.
Yes. I love that. I love the way that sounds. I'm happy they're going to meet the patients where they are because, again, transportation is such a huge barrier. And
Mhm.
being able to meet them in the communities, and even when they're not even looking or paying attention, they might be in a CVS
That's
and going in there to go get something else. And they're like, oh, what's this? Have questions. I love that idea. I'm a strong believer in meet the person where they are, but not just health wise, but actually be in their community. So you become visible and they can ask those questions. And I rarely see, which is so sad, I rarely see information or pamphlets about HIV anymore. It's like it kind of slowly has disappeared. And
we need it out there.
we have to get it out there. It's like I go to physical places and I don't see any type of information or education. And I get people don't want to walk around with it, but also that's stigma. So if you could pick up one again for diabetes or high blood pressure, why can't you pick up a pamphlet on HIV and PrEP? So I love that. I really love that for Emory. Shout out to them and expanding because prevention is key. We have the cure side, but if we can prevent it, let's prevent it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're going to transition into our questions because we got some great ones. But before we do, I just want to remind you that this show, Ask Dr. Christy, with our special guest today, Justine Davenport, is through the Melanated Movement portfolio of AIDS United. We are making sure that we are invested in protecting the future's brilliance and health and well-being of all people, but for the Melanated Movement, for our Black and brown women. That's really important.
Yay.
So I come to you typically every second Wednesday of the month. This month, I'm coming to you on a Wednesday, always a Wednesday, but I'm coming to you on the third Wednesday of the month. And for the month of June, I will also be coming to you on that third Wednesday. So remember that I will be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time coming to you again on the third Wednesday of the month of June. But first, let's dive into some of our questions now. So I am going to pull up. So let's see. Let's answer some of these questions that we just got in during the news segment. Let's see. I have here. I've been taking my pills every other day for the past 3 months and I'm still undetectable. Is it bad that I'm doing this? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is our opinions do not matter on this. You need to go talk to your provider. You have a healthcare provider for a reason. You have a doctor who knows your case, knows your blood results, knows from observation some of your mental and emotional distresses or challenges that you may have. But I always tell people that whatever you were told when you started accessing treatment, follow that. It doesn't change just because our mood changes or the day changes or some random woman on the internet doing a live broad stream tells you to change it. Listen to your medical provider. That's the best advice I can give you, my love. Go chat with your doctor and see what that does. Okay. Justine, this one's for you, Justine. Do you see this? Oh, you're somebody's hero. When a hero comes along.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes, Davenport. Come on.
She,
Wonderful.
thank you. I know who that is.
Juanita. All right. So I'm going to jump into some of our other questions. Do you have the questions that I get them to you? I know sometimes I'm terrible at checking my email. I'll take this first one and then you take the next one. How's that sound? Okay.
That
So
sounds good.
I've seen people online sharing their HIV journeys very openly. For someone living with HIV, how do they decide whether being public about their story feels empowering or too exposing? This is a tough one.
Mm.
I will say this. I will say, you know what is well with your spirit. You know what is well with your spirit. If something causes you too much anxiety, it causes you too much disease, if you have not worked through something to the point to be able to disconnect shame and internalized stigma, embarrassment, these types of things from it, maybe yours is not a story that at least yet you're ready to share. And that is okay. You know, not everybody's ministry is the same. There are people that it is literally their purpose in this world to be vulnerable about their story, to be educators. Maybe your purpose is just to be beautiful and bold and brilliant and thrive, not despite of, not in spite of, but because of. Okay. So I think that the best way to answer this question that we've received is, I think, to the asker, to the inquisitor, I think you need to sit with your spirit and figure out what feels good for you. What do your personal boundaries look like? What is the landscape of your life? Are you an activist? Are you an educator? Are you a community organizer type of person? Maybe there is capital to your story, currency to your story. But if you're somebody clocking into your 9 to 5, a barber, office person, receptionist, grocer, maybe you need to think about the cost of peace and being able to control it. I always say the first rule of mental health is knowing who deserves your story, who deserves a part of it, and who deserves zero of it. Okay? This one's for you, Justine.
All right. In a mixed status relationship, how do I navigate moments where fear or misunderstanding comes up, even if we both care deeply about each other?
Mm.
Mm. So, because I can't tell you what to do, but I have from lived experience. Again, I said earlier in my introduction, or I don't know if I said it, but I am HIV positive and my partner is not positive. I've actually never been with anybody who's been positive. Well, not that I know of, okay?
Mhm.
Um, but navigating that situation is it does bring fear. You are scared of being judged. You're scared that the person's not going to receive it well. The best thing that has worked for me is education. Educating myself on my diagnosis, being able to share that education with my partner and letting them know, hey, I'm here to support you. Providing that education, I think, has honestly been key for me of never being rejected from anybody. They've never thrown my status in my face at any time point argument because I know who I am. I know I take care of myself.
Mhm.
But I know it's a fear. I can't tell you when to disclose or anything like that. Is you do what you feel best. And again, why are you telling this person your status? Are they worthy of even knowing your status, right? But being able to have that education and tell your partner and be like, hey, if you want to come with me to the provider, I could take you to our nearest public health or clinic. If you want to get tested, tell them all their options that's available to them so they can make the decision from that point on. But being able to be educated is, I think, top key. And then also being able to understand that if that person wants to walk, let them walk. Because you should never ever feel belittled because of your status. You are a person and you deserve the best. Let them go. I know it's hard, better said than done, but you have to let them go.
That's a beautiful answer. I love that so much. Justine, you're incredible. I love it. Uh, yes. So I was thinking, I wonder kind of like with that question, because I would love to know. I've given my own answer to this question before. I'm going to kind of
Mhm.
segue away from the fixed question just because my brain was thinking. I've given my own answer for this before, but I wonder from your perspective, what are your thoughts on like with the mixed relationship status? A lot of the questions that we get here at AIDS United so far and through the Melanated Movement has been, when do I tell somebody? And I give them
Right.
my opinion. I'm also a dandelion, by the way. It's not something I talk about a whole lot because then people always want to just talk about that. But I do wonder what your thoughts are. And then we can segue back into the normal questions or the other questions.
I've done it different ways. I've never said it on a first encounter. I've never done that, right?
Mhm.
But I like to gauge my partner or whomever I'm talking to at the time's knowledge about HIV. So I might pose a question to kind of gather their reaction, and honestly, from there, that's when I make my decision. They don't know I'm making a decision at that point, but if I feel like they're educated enough, or if they're not educated but they're open and they have questions about it and they're curious, then I could disclose my status, but I've had time frames of a few months, or if I know we're about to become sexually active, we need to have this conversation. Um, it's never been maybe over 5 months or anything like that, but I try to see if I even actually like the person, but enough to even share this information. But I mostly gauge how they react to it, or if they even open about talking about HIV, and if they're not, I just don't even bother to tell them. By then, they probably friend zoned and don't even know it. But yeah.
Mm, okay, wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so our next question. I don't always want to be the one educating my friends about HIV, but I still want them to understand me. How do I create space for shared learning instead of feeling like the teacher all the time? That is a tough question. It's a really tough question. And I think that's because for most of us that work in any type of movement work, we feel this burden of always being the teacher, being the educator. I think also as women of color, we feel this pressure to always be, the educator, the backbone, the pusher, the motivator, all of these things. So I relate with that. The reality is, I've gotten to the point, and I'm going to show you what got me to this point. As a trans woman, I always found myself being considered like people will ask you, it's like they think like, oh, it's your job to educate me. Because if you don't educate me, then how am I supposed to know better? How am I supposed to understand better? And I get that reasoning. But after a while, it starts to lose its ability to float on water because you find yourself being relegated, downsized the position of constantly having to be responsible for the socialization and education of every single person that you come in, which is an unfair burden because you got to do it online and you got to do it in person. And then what it does is it downsizes you to being nothing more than basically a Google search bar. And I want to say this in my professional capacity, I am very charming. I am very charismatic. I will answer all the questions. I'll answer the same question 6 times in a row if need be. But there is a difference between Dr. Christy Perez and Christina. Christina is very no nonsense. She does not feel the need to be the substitute for what you could have asked Siri. And I think that we need to normalize not responding to these pressures, these unjust expectations, especially as personal individuals, personal capacities, not professionals, not educators. You, at the end of the day, I'm assuming the inquisitor, the asker of this question, are, an everyday person, not in the burden of movement work, of social justice work, of public policy work, and health policy work. That is not your cross to bear. And we need to normalize telling people, like, it's not my job to educate you. I don't exist to be a source of easy facilitation for you to get information that you could have gotten much quicker. Google's got AI mode now, baby. Use it. So that is one thing I will tell you. I will tell you that people who genuinely care about you also, because I noticed that you tagged your friends to this conversation, people who genuinely care about you will go out of their way to learn about you and learn what your needs are. My friends, they only have to insinuate or give one type of clue about something in their life, and I'm over it. Like, if you get pregnant, baby, I'm a natal expert by the next time we meet. Okay? If you get high blood pressure, by the time you come back, I'm like, that's not good for your hypertension. We need to be stretching. We need to be drinking water. Like, there is nothing that God could not give me in my friendship situations that I will not become a good steward of. So when they need me, I'm ready. So I would just leave you to think with that. Okay. And then, Justine, the next one's yours.
Yes. How do I create a version of that where I still feel free, but also grounded in my health and peace of mind? Ooh, that is a good question. So, how do I create a version of where I still feel free? So, I believe that you got to do what brings you joy. You got to do what ultimately brings you joy. I will speak from experience, especially lately. The last couple of years has been quite tough, but this year, because always pouring into people, just always pouring and not really pouring into myself as much, right? So taking the time, I've made it a point actually since last year. I'm gonna do the stuff that I want to do. I don't care how much it costs. I'm gonna do what I want to do to bring me joy, right? But I'm also gonna pay attention to my health. I have to be able to make sure I take those measures so I could be my whole self. So I'm not broke down. I'm not feeling bad because your health has a lot to do with your mood. If you're in constant pain, you're not going to be in a good mood. If you notice that something inside is not right, you're not going to be in a good mood. So you have to take care of this one body that you have first. If you can't do nothing else, you got to take care of your body first. And it could be small things. It don't even have to be anything that costs a whole lot of money. It could be small things like I like to just wash my face. That brings me joy. Okay, making sure my face is moisturized. That brings me joy. Self care. I can go to the little dollar store and put a mask on my face if I can't get no facial. But I take care of my whole self. So you have to be able to take care of your whole self. And that's going to bring you peace of mind automatically. When you're able to be healthy, you feel good, you have energy, you don't feel down about yourself, that could bring you peace of mind. Or that could at least be a start. And then the rest of everything else could start to fall in place what else can bring you joy. And sometimes you got to sit with it, or you have to try different things sometimes to find out what brings you joy. We don't always know. We don't always have these extravagant talents of singing and dancing to find out. Sometimes you just have to trial and error. But that's also fun too, to figure out what you like and don't like, and ultimately that will bring you peace and loving yourself. That comes with the healthcare brings
Can I
you
say that I
joy.
think the most beautiful thing that you said was like the part about experimenting, like don't being like people. I hate when people ask me like, "What do you like to do?" I'm like, "Girl, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out."
And
It's
you
like
have to.
that's really beautiful that you said that because I'm glad that you took this question because I would have had to been like I would have had to like tap out on that one because phase
Skip.
of life that I'm in right now,
Yeah.
especially like with the dating part and like being outside more. Like, girl, I don't know what I like right now. I don't even know most of the time if I like whatever's going on. I don't know. I don't know. So I love that you answered it. You gave me some good perspective too. So you got two birds, one stone.
Hey.
Um, all right. So with everything like reality stars going to space, like Capitol Hill, and being part of a bigger conversation, it makes me wonder what does it actually look like to use influence well when it comes to issues like HIV? How do we tell the difference between real advocacy and just being visible? Whew.
You got
So
it.
here's the thing. I always love to say like your existence is resistant. So sometimes just being visible is enough. And I want to understand, I want to point out that the assignment is not the same for everybody. Okay. And just because somebody has something does not mean that they are even the correct steward, the correct person to utilize it. So you have 10 people that have influence, and then you got some people they'll try to use their influence and they mean well, but we know that the road to hell was paved with good intentions. So just because somebody has the tools, has the access, has the capability, doesn't mean that they are the right person. It's kind of like take a message. The message can be necessary, but is the messenger the correct person to convey it? So this is the first thing I would say. Um, so the second thing that I would say is that I think that real advocacy, when it comes to those who hold influence, it looks like consistency and effort. The reality is there are
Mhm.
several things in life that you cannot fake. My grandmother, because you had to know my grandmother. It sounds like I'm about to say something harsh, but I promise you, one of the few good things she ever had to say, one of the few kind things she ever had to say was that you can fool most of the people most of the time, but you cannot fool them all the time. Okay, which is actually pretty magnanimous coming from her. So a little trauma outlet there. But yes, so you consistency is one of the most key ways that we find allies, that we find architects, that we find community builders. You cannot fake that. You cannot fake consistency. It shows up in your discipline, it shows up in your passion, it shows up in your presence. But these are the people that are always bridging the gap as well. These are the people sparking important conversations. These are the people that are putting it on the line. To give you some reference, not an HIV related anecdote per se, but very relevant. At the beginning of this administration's rollback on DEI, its advanced attacks on communities of color, its specific and targeted attacks against the LGBT community, there were some companies that buckled under pressure. They had influence, they had money, they had lobbyists, they had lawyers, they had politicians who owed them favors, and they buckled under pressure. Then there were some companies like Netflix, and people can say whatever they want about Netflix, but they took their proceeds and they funneled that money into initiatives, nonprofits, and political candidates in opposition to what the administration was trying to attempt. When the fire gets hot, we know real advocacy, we know real allies, we know the bearing of real influence to create a result by how it shows up at the risk of personal expense. And I think that for communities of color, particularly Black and Brown people and queer people, we've always known, and I think most specifically for Black women, because community movement, community building has always been, unfortunately, on the backs of Black women
Mhm.
without properly appreciating and returning the great cost of sacrifice to them. There is a cost to truth. There is a cost that you will bear when you are a truth speaker and when you are a truth worker. And so these are one of the great ways. Look for who's paying the price. All right. I see something else here. Okay, another question came in. Here we go. Justine, this one's all for you.
All right. Sometimes I feel like HIV conversations are either very clinical or very inspirational. But where is the space for messy in between feelings? So I think this is very true. Um, if it's not, you're just providing information about HIV, then it's somebody sharing their story to inspire you to either get into care or help you get preventative measures, but not really giving the rough. And those conversations are honestly probably happening in more private settings where there are actual safe spaces for people to be messy and not feel like they're being judged. Um, most of the time they want to provide you the information so you can take the correct measures to do what you need to do to stay HIV negative. But the inspiration, storytelling is also very powerful. And sometimes, depending on the story, if that person decides to share, it can get messy. So, but again, those type of conversations from persons of lived experience for the most part feel more safe when it's in a group of other people of lived experience because they don't want to feel judged, they don't want to feel the stigma, and they just don't want to share. But you have people like me where I'm like, hey, uh the baby came before the boyfriend, but that's a different story, okay?
Right, right.
Okay, because it's real life. But I'm open to sharing the messiness. Like, this is my life. Can nobody tell me about my life except for me, okay? So, but not a lot of people are comfortable about sharing those things. But there are advocates and people out here out that are willing to share that realness with you. You just may have to dig a little deeper to find them, but there are advocates out here who are real. Not saying the others are not, but they're just more open to sharing what's happening because we're just people, we're just women, we're black women. We go through things, and a lot of the things are similar. We just don't want to talk about it. We are ashamed. Like, I don't want, again, don't want to be judged. But hey, girl,
Yeah.
I like to go out here and have sex. I like to fuck, okay? That's
Just
what it
like anybody
is. And it's
else.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. It's called dating. Well, you're not dating, whatever the call, what you want to call it, whatever words you want to use. But again, we're all people. We have shared experiences in different shapes and forms. It
And
doesn't
basic
necessarily
needs.
have to be very unique, right? We have similar lives, but again, it's just all in the person who's willing to share. But there are spaces out there where they do provide that information. It's just something you may have to look for sometimes.
I agree. I'd be like this. You don't go into Sam's Club or Costco and not try the free samples. And you
Exactly.
don't be like, I'm a glutton because I tried a bunch of free samples. I'm not here sampling. It's
Exactly.
human
And let me get
experience.
two. That was really good. Thank you.
I need to hedge my bets. I need to make sure I'm sure. I need to know that the recipe is correct and all the essential ingredients are there. My God, on today.
Right.
All right. So we have our last question. Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Final question of the day. I've been feeling a little isolated lately. How do I find real life spaces or communities where I can feel seen and understood without it being forced or uncomfortable? First of all, I want to tell you that you are beloved. You are a beautiful soul. Okay. And that you are worthy and you are good. And I know that sounds like platitudes, but I think that it's important for you, my dear inquisitor, my dear asker of the question, to be reminded that you are beautiful, that you're beloved, and you are special. Secondly, I will tell you, if you are not like me, I'm very much a hermit. I am very sociable for work, and I love to be out in professional things, and then I like to be home with a Hot Pocket stain running down my t-shirt playing video games. Okay. um, so if you are not a homebody or a hermit like I am, I would tell you, go out. I know that sounds like such a simple answer, like, duh, good job, tell me something I know. But the reality is that you might have learned the value of $1 from your parents if you were lucky. But I guarantee you, you probably have not truly learned the value of a minute or a week, etc. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Go outside, experiment with people, try new hobbies. If you've never gone rock climbing and maybe you think you might be interested in that, try that at the gym. Go take a salsa or a bachata class. You'll meet some great people. Go try a paint and sip. Go try a bowling club. Go try a pool night. Go try a trivia night. Go try a wine. Did I ever say wine and painting? I don't just get out and try people. There are usually like hiking groups in cities and rural areas, but you have to be willing to expose yourself. You said, how do I find real life spaces? Well, the thing about it is real life is happening constantly. Life does not pause when you are somewhere that you don't prefer to be or when you're in your home. Life is still moving. But like the current of a river, you get to choose. Will you be in it? Will you participate? Will you let life get you wet? That sounds a little weird. Will you dip your feet in the current of life? Okay. Will you get out there? You talk about communities where I can feel seen and understood. If you are looking for a specific group that matches you, ideally, box by box by box, my dear, you are going to be disappointed. I can guarantee you. The reality is, don't look for communities. Look for people. Look for individuals, and you will find them in different places. I make friends in the grocery store. I make friends in the parking lot. I make friends at the East Point Power Company. I make friends everywhere. And you too can do this. And it won't be because they belong to a specific demographic or marginalized group or anything. They will be individuals who operate from a place of goodness, a place of optimism, and a desire to be surrounded by people who feel like honey. And that's the real answer for you. Find people and moments that feel like honey on you, and you'll have everything else figured out. So that's my best advice for you, my beloved.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
I struggled with that question a little bit. But as I read it, it's like, yeah, look for people, the people, not off a particular thing that's in common, but for that person and their whole self. And
yeah,
then the friendship builds from there.
yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah.
And the major thing is also don't forget, if you're not happy with your own company, who's going to be happy with your company? There may be parts of things that you have to work on, but the first thing I tell you is get out and find some new stuff that you love doing. And in the process of doing this stuff, you are going to meet people. So, it's not as easy as when we were children to make friends as an adult. That's something that people don't talk enough about. Like making
Yeah.
friends as an adult is a whole different animal. It's a whole different species, but you can
Yeah.
do it. I promise you can. Okay. So I want to say, reminder that this is Ask Dr. Christy with the Melanated Movement and AIDS United, and we're going to wrap up our show. I just want to remind you that you are able to submit your questions. You can go right to the AIDS United Instagram page. You'll be able to see places where you can submit your question, or you can go to aidsunited.org. You can also shoot me an email at cperez@aidsunited.org if you have something more confidential. I love to chat with y'all, even if you just want to chop it up. If you want to hit me with a kiki, send me an email. I love to talk with you. You can also always feel free to reach out to me on my socials. I'm chronically online, baby. So you'll be able to follow me and talk with me, and we'll be able to chit chat. And of course, Justine, would you tell people where they can find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about your story, or they just have enjoyed the awesome sauce that you brought to marinade the Ask Dr. Christy show today?
I can be reached on IG at sis whoa.
Get it out, girl. Get it out.
At sis love she. So again,
Yes,
at sis love she On Instagram, I can be reached. You can message me. Feel free, and I'll reach back out. It's been a joy being on here today with you, Dr. Christy. I've had such a good time, and thank y'all for inviting me out.
Of course, we were so glad. I'm just waiting for the comms to drop your Instagram in there so that people can follow you. But we really enjoyed you coming here. And for me, this was very exciting. Carly, who's our program manager, I was like, we need to have somebody. It was a great idea. We all agreed on it together jointly. And so I got the list, and there were some other incredible people on there, but I was like, hold on, wait, Justine. Hi, girl. How you doing? So yes, there we go. So y'all, please go follow Justine Davenport. Justine is an incredible woman of courageous experience and a lot of good insights. And my hope is as we move into this programming that I'll be bringing Justine back more. So make sure you're leaving us feedback. Do we need more Justine? I think we do. But you let me know. And for now, I just want to remind you that we will be back in June on the third Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because Mama needs to recover from surgery. So I will see you then. And for now, you are beloved, and we'll talk to you soon, beautiful soul. Bye.